In every town, there's a name whispered not with reverence, but with warning, a name remembered not for glory, but for grief. In the sleepy, sunburnt town of Amuchi, that name was Obina. But Obina's tale did not begin with shame.
No.
It began like most stories do, sweetly, quietly, in the laughter of youth and the small mischiefs of boyhood. He was a child with a beautiful smile and feet always covered in red earth. Whenever his mother sent him to the market with a few naira to buy roasted plantain and groundnuts, young Obina would skip down the roadside paths lined with old women and younger girls, their trays heavy with fruit, cola, and wares. He would always stop at Mama Esther's stall. She was a kind old woman with soft cheeks and eyes that could read a soul. Because she knew Obina's mother well, she often dropped in an extra piece of roasted plantain, a gesture of kindness. "Give your mama my greeting," she would say with a wink. But Obina never passed the message. Nor did the extra plantain ever reach home. Halfway between the stall and his mother's house, he would find a quiet corner behind the bamboo fence, sit down, and devour the extra piece of plantain, wiping his oily fingers on his shorts. Over time, this became his habit. What began as small indulgence grew into bold appetite. If a vendor turned away, Obina's hand would dart in. A cola nut missing here. A stick of meat there. Nobody ever caught him, at least not at first. But the town had eyes. Whispers began. That boy's hand day too sharp. The elders started to say, the lizard that keeps nodding by the pot of soup will one day fall in. Years passed. Obina grew, but so did his hunger, for things not his. He became a young man with long arms and faster lies. Wherever he went, stories followed. Missing mangoes, misplaced wallets, even a goat that vanished during market day. His mother, tired of complaints, tired of tears, finally told him, "Obina, the path you walk will soon close behind you." But Obina laughed. "Mama, I just get sharp sense. No be crime." So when opportunity came, he left, vanished into the city like smoke in the wind. No goodbyes, just a tattered nylon bag and big dreams. The city was loud, impatient, and full of strangers. Obina liked that. No one knew his name. No one watched his hands. He wandered until hunger drove him to the small eatery painted green and white at the corner of a Gouda street. Above the doorway, in fading red letters, was the name, Sweet Appetite. He asked for work. Madame Dorcas, the owner, was a thick, stern woman with tribal marks deep as scars. She looked him over, asked no questions, and handed him a mop. "Start with the floor. If you last 1 week, I pay you." Obina cleaned. He scrubbed. He arranged chairs and carried buckets. He didn't complain. But his eyes, kept drifting to the glass display at the front. Inside it sat the golden prize. Chicken laps, spiced and roasted to perfection, calling out to every passerby. And once again, the hunger returned. It started slowly. 1 lap gone. Madame Dorcas thought it was a miscount. Then 2 laps disappeared. Then 3. She questioned her workers. All denied. Obina, with innocent eyes and steady voice, said, "Madam." "God forbid. I fit swear, no be me." But something inside her didn't rest. She'd run a business for over 20 years. She knew the smell of deceit. So she waited, watching, planning. One rainy Sunday evening, when the clouds hung heavy with the promise of thunder and the air was thick with the scent of impending storm, Madame Dorcas decided it was time to put her plan into motion. She had prepared a fresh batch of chicken laps, more succulent than any before. This time, however, there was a twist. She did something unconventional and evil. A special ingredient was included in the meal preparation, one that was used not to kill quickly, but to punish slowly, to drag the soul from the body with a pain so unbearable that death seemed like a mercy. She cooked the chicken with care, ensuring that the poison blended seamlessly into the spices. Then, she placed the warm, golden laps into the glass display at the front of the kitchen. She called her workers together and gave them a simple command. "These chicken laps are not for sale. Not tonight. Not tomorrow. And not until I say so. Her workers nodded, some wide-eyed, others quietly frightened, but none daring to speak. They understood the warning. That night, the eatery closed early. The doors were locked, the lights dimmed. The customers who had visited earlier in the evening were long gone, and the streets outside were empty except for the soft pitter-patter of rain against the ground. The workers left, one by one, saying their goodbyes and heading home. But Obinna, as always, stayed behind. He waited in the shadows, his body pressed close to the cold water tank at the back of the kitchen. His heart raced as the sound of footsteps faded away until silence fell like a heavy blanket over the space. The time had come. Obinna crept from his hiding place, his movements swift, practiced. He approached the glass display where the chicken laps sat, their golden sheen gleaming in the dim light. His fingers twitched as he reached for the latch. His heart thudded in his chest. But he didn't hesitate. The latch clicked open, and without a second thought, he reached in and took 3 chicken laps. He felt a rush of triumph, a feeling of victory that he had felt so many times before. The chicken laps were warm, dripping with sauce. He took them behind the freezer and sat down, licking his lips as he began to eat. The taste was divine, better than he had ever imagined. The meat was tender, the spices rich. It was as if he had never tasted anything so satisfying in his life. But soon, something changed. The euphoria that Obinna had felt while eating began to dissipate, replaced by a sharp pain that cut through his stomach like 1,000 needles. He gasped, clutching his belly, his body stiffening. His fingers trembled, and for a moment, he thought it was just indigestion. But the pain grew worse, unbearable, as if his insides were being torn apart. He staggered toward the sink, his legs unsteady. He reached the door but fell to his knees, crawling toward the toilet. But the pain didn't let up. It consumed him, twisting his body in ways he had never felt before. His breaths grew shallow, and his vision blurred. He could barely move. Finally, he collapsed on the cold floor, his body curling into a fetal position, his chest heaving with each shallow breath. Morning came, bringing with it the usual bustle of the city. But its sweet appetite, something was amiss. When the workers arrived, they immediately noticed the foul, bitter smell emanating from the back of the kitchen. They found Obinna, curled in the corner, his eyes wide open, his mouth frozen in a grotesque, crooked smile. His body was stiff, a final, silent testament to the price he had paid for his greed. And beside him, scattered on the ground, were the remnants of the chicken laps, bones picked clean, as if he had savored every last bite. Madame Dorcas stood over him, her eyes unreadable.
She didn't cry.
She didn't scream. She simply looked down at the body of the young man who had once worked for her, the man who had taken what didn't belong to him. After a long silence, she spoke quietly. Even the strongest stomach cannot digest what was never meant for. Beware of free things. Even sugar draws ants to their death. Fathers reminded their sons, the thief who escapes today has only bought time, not freedom. In the quiet streets and bustling markets, Obinna's fate echoed, a reminder that what seems too easy, too free, often comes at the highest cost. And as the townspeople went on with their lives, they knew, in every market, every kitchen, there's always one last chicken lap that might just be your end.